Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen. One of the things that I think is important for us to remember when we're remembering Sister Aafia Siddiqui and what's happened to her is that there has been no evidence about any of the things that are supposed to have been committed and so on and so forth. This is a tragedy which has unfolded and has been allowed to unfold and continue. And it's been allowed to continue because the powers that be want to send out a message to others that there is something that they can do this, they can do whatever. And it's looking to see what we as individuals are going to do about this injustice. It is about trying to see what can be done to try and make sure that what's happening to Sister Aafia is actually going to be remembered. One of the biggest problems that we have is the foreign policy, the policies of the country whose embassy that we're standing outside of. And the reason that we're protesting outside this particular embassy is because of what's happening to Sister Aafia. It is in some ways quite a hypocrisy of the situation with regards to human rights that we were told that George Bush is from Texas, he's a cowboy, you know, and these things happened under his watch and were allowed to continue while he was in charge and so on and so forth. And somehow things would get slightly better when Obama came in. The problem is, this is a completely false narrative. Things haven't got better. In fact, things have got a lot worse. We've had the situation that while in George Bush's time, people would be taken prisoner and tortured and so on and so forth, there was some concept that there needed to be that process. Now, it's straightforward, shoot from the hip, eliminate, kill and destroy. And the introduction that the brother gave, that we must not allow in this context Sister Aafia to be forgotten, is that they would like this to go away. So this issue about the prison situation is important, and it is very important that people in our communities, the people who are here, take this message out forward to other people and write to those, to the prison guards, to have something done to make sure that Sister Aafia is going to be looked after in this particular situation. And the problem is that the assassinations, you know, we've got a situation here where Sister Aafia was affected, is imprisoned, incarcerated. We've also got her family, her children being impacted. One child is missing, presumed dead, but we still have no idea absolutely as to what has actually happened. And under Obama, we don't only have these so-called suspects being eliminated, we have families being eliminated, we have wedding parties being targeted, we have whole groups of people being annihilated and killed, and so by these so-called drones, or assassination drones as they are sometimes called. And we need to remember that this is being done, the situation of Sister Aafia is in the context of what is actually happening and the policies of the United States. This seems to be in many ways the home of injustice in terms of the policies that are being carried out around the world by the United States. And we should make sure that we remember that one of the things that is being tried across the Middle East is to sow division between Muslims, sow divisions between the people of that region, whether they be Muslim or otherwise, to make sure that the American interests are continued and carried forward. And it is for us to remember that anything, almost anything that originates because of the interests, because of what the Americans want to do, should at the very least be viewed with suspicion. if not directly opposed, because most of the policies that are being carried out across the Muslim world, across the Middle East, and so on and so forth, are something that are aimed at sowing division within Muslims, are aimed at sowing division between the people of that region. And we need to remember that this divide and rule policy is something that is widely attributed to the country that we live in today, in terms of the foreign policy that it is carried out, in terms of the domestic policies that it is carried out, and it is something that America is doing with great, to some degree of success across the Middle East. Finally, I want to also say that this is something that while all of this is going on, we need to think about what are we going to do to try and resist that narrative being adopted by the Muslim community. How can we make sure that resistance to the ideas of the United States are going to be resisted, so that we don't fall prey to the plans that they have got for the Muslim community, for the people across the world, against whom their injustices are being carried out. We need to remember that the situation of Sister Aafia is a severe test for her. It is something that is not just simply an accidental miscarriage of justice. It is not down to a misunderstanding of what has actually happened. The problem with the United States is something that is systemic. The problem with the United States in the way that it is trying to make sure that its policies of hegemony over the rest of the world, its policies of making sure that whatever they want, regardless of whether it is appropriate and right, forget about right, whether it's going to work for the people across the world, or even if it's going to work for the American people themselves, it doesn't matter. It is the powers that be that need to be challenged. And unless we try and make sure that we're going to remember Sister Aafia, unless we make sure that we remember the context of who is perpetrating these crimes and what they're trying to do in the broader context, we are not going to be able to fight this criminal governmental policy by the United States at a level that it needs to be fought at. And I think, and I just pray that people have come out on this cold day to remember what's happened to Sister Aafia over such a long time. And I hope that this message is going to go out much wider, that we are going to use this as something that is not that we have completed our duty. This is one small step that we take. It is something that we need to continue to do when we go back. The work needs to continue. This is a springboard for action, not the completion of our duties. Thank you for listening. Assalamu alaikum.